Welcome to my channel. Sit back and listen to the best true crime stories. Let's go. A child lost to the city. The year 1999 was coming to an end. The whole of America was discussing the scandal with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Well, we will move to Toronto, the largest Canadian city and the capital of the picturesque Lake Province of Ontario. Today, Toronto is an important financial and cultural center of Canada, a bustling metropolis with skyscrapers, art galleries, parks, headquarters of many Canadian and international companies. It is a truly multicultural city because here live about 200 different nationalities and speak, in addition to English, 160 TI languages. Etobicoke is a neighborhood on the western edge of Toronto. The first white settlers appeared here in the late 1790s, and by the 20th century it became an independent city, but in the 1950s it, along with other towns and villages lying near Toronto, began to belong to the Capital District, and in 1998 Etobicoke finally lost its independent management and merged with Toronto, becoming one of its 6 administrative districts. Etobicoke is home to a diverse population in terms of nations and living standards. Neighborhoods where low-income migrants from Jamaica, Nigeria, Iraq, Somalia, Philippines, India, Pakistan, Ghana live are interspersed with places favored by migrants from Spain, Italy, Ukraine, Poland, and there are very prosperous, upscale neighborhoods. The neighborhood is not characterized by a high crime rate, and it is relatively safe. In general, because Etobicoke has a lot of industrial buildings and shopping centers, it is not as densely populated as other parts of Toronto. The Etobicoke neighborhood is home to Colonel Samuel Smith Park. Forming a thin circular elongated peninsula to the south, the park overlooks Lake Ontario. This picturesque spot in the bosom of nature is just right for Etobicoke. Toronto residents have flocked here since ancient times to picnic and enjoy long walks along the lake's beaches, bird watching and fishing. Since the 1970s, the park was actively developed and infrastructure was built, and it was officially opened in 1996, named in honor of politician and military man, Colonel Samuel Smith, who in the 1820s was appointed governor of Upper Canada and owned extensive lands in Etobicoke, including the territory of the modern park. It is home to over 100 species of birds and has trails and bird-watching areas, beavers, squirrels, turtles, playgrounds, fishing opportunities, a soccer field, cricket field, covered parking for group gatherings, an ice skating track, a yacht club, and the campus of Humber College nearby. In the summer, there is a jazz festival, exhibitions, fairs of all kinds with contests, stalls and rides, and touring traveling circus and theater performers. People from the surrounding area flock to the park with their whole families to have fun and relax in nature. However, on December 7, 1999, the park was deserted, and Mary Smith, who was walking her dog, immediately noticed a man and a woman. At first, they were not suspicious, and even said something to Mary about her dog as they approached her. But soon the woman sensed something wrong, and decided to observe the couple from afar and memorize what they looked like. The man was heading toward the water's edge, which was dotted with huge boulders and, as it seemed to Mary, was hiding something in the crevices dotting the rocks. The woman suspected that they must be involved in the illegal drug trade, and for some reason had decided to bury the dangerous goods between the rocks. The crevices were deep enough that if you piled a couple of rocks on top of the bag, no one would ever realize there were drugs hidden in the boulders. Mary had also heard of people drowning kittens in the lake, and the woman worried that maybe this couple had decided to get rid of unwanted pets as well, so she kept watching and waited until they left the park before heading for the boulders. After exploring the rocks, she finally found a dark green-colored trash bag in one of the crevices. As soon as the woman touched it, she felt warmth, and was convinced that the people who had thrown the bag away were trying to drown kittens or puppies, and she should open the bag immediately, because if it was still warm, it might be possible to save the defenseless animals. In the bag was another tied identical bag. The woman was shocked and horrified when she recognized the contents of the garbage bag as the dismembered remains of a human being. Mary called the police, and Detective Rolf Preiser, who was subsequently assigned the case, rushed to the scene. Of course, Police officers deal with all sorts of crimes on a daily basis, and as much as possible, they get used to the sight of blood, brutality, and evil. But this time, Pricer admitted, even seasoned police officers shuddered as they familiarized themselves with the gruesome findings from the trash bags. Parts of a right arm, forearm, and upper part from elbow to shoulder and a right thigh. There was blood in the trash bag, and the cuts were fresh and precise. It was determined that the approximate age of the victim could have been between 4 and 12 years old. The search continued. The entire shoreline and nearby lake waters were searched, and the next day another grisly find followed. An identical bag to the first with a left shoulder and left thigh. The search continued on land and from the water. Satellite imagery was used, and dogs trained to find corpses were deployed. The remains were sent for examination by forensic experts, and police began combing schools to find out which children were absent at the appropriate time. But here they were disappointed. All the absent children were alive and well, and there were no reports of a missing child. He could not be identified, and the body parts found did not even allow the police to accurately determine the child's sex. It seemed that no one was looking for him. No one reported him missing to the police, and this led to dark thoughts that it was the people who were supposed to take care of him, the closest people, the parents, who killed him. And most likely, it was the couple that Mary Smith had been watching in Colonel Samuel Smith Park. Mary thought the suspicious man and woman spoke Spanish and identified them as being of Hispanic origin. A profile of the suspects was drawn up. Toronto police contacted units in Canada and the United States, and all missing children cases were checked. Any couple that looked anything like the one Mary described was questioned. More than 900 people were interviewed by police, but no leads were forthcoming and police did not know which child they were talking about. The people of Toronto united, trying to comfort each other and vowing that the unknown child lost to the city would not be forgotten. The police found another bag of remains, and now the search was already with the use of excavators. Almost every stone was turned over. The portrait of the suspected couple is rotated on all channels of television. The police received about 104 calls. Everyone continues to assume it's a Hispanic couple. Then a breakthrough event occurs in this case of the unknown child. It happened thanks to a press conference from Toronto Police Headquarters. The medical examiner shared live with the media and thus, everyone in the country, a heartbreaking X-ray image of the dismembered hand of a child. He revealed that the incisions were made with surgical precision, the forearm was separated through the elbow joint, and DNA analysis suggests it was a female child of South Asian origin. Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. The approximate height and weight of the girl was given. This was the first time Detective Rolf Pricer had used such a technique, and the broadcast of the X-ray was a brilliant idea as it focused the public's attention on the need to collectively determine who the unfortunate child was, and it got results. The press conference happened at 10 a.m., and as early as 12:39 p.m., Prather received a call from his partner, who was visiting the 2nd Street Community School on a completely unrelated case, and was approached by head kindergarten teacher Heather Cartwright to share her doubts. The fact is that there was a girl in her class who fit the description from the press conference. Her name was Farah Khan, she was 5 years old, and of Pakistani origin. The girl was very quiet, obedient, cheerful, and there were no problems in her learning and behavior. She was short and thin, and looked smaller than her age. Farah lived with her father and mother. Also, parents of children in whose homes Farah often stayed for lunch after school described her as a sweet, good girl. She last attended school on December 2, 1999, and was due on December 3, but did not show up for class. Instead, her mother showed up at the school a few days later and told her that Farah's grandmother was terminally ill, so the whole family was leaving for Pakistan on December 8 to take care of the sick woman, and Farah would no longer be able to attend school. Thus, just the indication of the girl's height and weight and her South Asian origin in the press conference made the teacher wonder if Farah's disappearance was due to reasons other than her departure with her family. Important clues were obtained from the school, a drinking cup with the girl's name on it and, more importantly, samples of her work from art class, one of which was her palm print. This was the first serious clue that could identify the victim, and Pricer's expectations were justified. Forensics showed that the handprints of the remains and the girl's drawing were a perfect match. It was a breakthrough in the investigation. The child was finally identified, although not all body parts were found. Police found out that Farah's parents, Muhammad Khan and Kanai's Fatima, arrived from Pakistan in April 1999 with a young child. Fatima was not Farah's mother. She married Muhammad in the late 1990s in Pakistan, and it was the second marriage for both of them. Farah, the child of Muhammad's first marriage, was left with her father after the divorce, as is often the case in Pakistan. They were living on the west side of the city, south of Etobicoke, in Building 135 on 8th Street, but left the apartment on December 24th without leaving information about where they were moving. They notified the landlord that they had bought their own home, but disappeared so quickly they didn't even collect their deposit. The neighbors knew nothing about what had happened and never saw or heard the little girl living next door, and the entire Khan family was quiet and inconspicuous. The police realized that Muhammad and Fatima could go anywhere, back to Pakistan, where they would be hard to find, or, say, to the United States. All airports were checked. Meanwhile, Rolf Preiser and his team scoured the city, trying to find any trace of the couple in the multi-million-dollar metropolis. Eventually, they managed to track down a house in the nearby North York neighborhood of Etobicoke, where Muhammad and Fatima had moved, and after several days of surveillance, police arrested them on January 19, 2000. Green garbage bags identical to the ones found were recovered from Muhammad's workplace. Police conducted a 4-hour interrogation of Khan, during which he told a fantastic story. Allegedly, he and his wife were going shopping at a nearby store the night before December 7th, but Farah was cranky and wouldn't go with them, instead wanting to keep watching cartoons. The couple left the girl alone, and when they returned, they found her slit her throat with a huge knife, lying in a pool of blood in the living room, and dead. During questioning, Khan agreed to show police where he buried his daughter's torso and head. But outside the police station, crowds of journalists have gathered waiting for developments, and Rolf Preiser goes for a ruse for the good of the investigation. He disguises the police officers in Khan and Fatima's clothes and stages a fake suspect's ride with the police escort. Journalists, convinced that these are the real criminals, in pursuit of sensationalism, follow the car with disguised police officers, and Preiser gets the opportunity to go quietly with Khan to the park near the Humber River, where he buried his head, and to Colonel Smith Park, where he promises to show the location of the torso. At one location in the West Humber Park area, near Islington Avenue and Albion Road, they do indeed find the girl's head, but in Colonel Smith Park they only manage to find scraps of an empty green garbage bag with blood on it. The girl's torso was supposed to be there, and it was never found. Presumably it was carried away and destroyed by animals. Khan told how he dismembered the girl in the bathroom because he believed he would not be believed she had committed suicide, and the next day he woke up at dawn and set about disposing of the remains. Before 7 a.m. he left the house and went to the bus stop on Islington Avenue South with a black rucksack containing Farah's separated head. He transferred to another bus at the Bloor Street West stop and continued north on Islington Avenue. Then, before reaching Albion Road, he got off and, walking a little further north, entered West Humber Park, where he found a deep, overgrown ravine near the Humber River, went down there, dug up the soil, and after saying prayers, lowered his daughter's head into the ground face down. "And I surrendered her to Allah," Muhammad Khan told the investigation. From above, he marked the spot with a rectangular stone. He then repeated the path he had taken and returned to the apartment. Together with Fatima, they took the rest of the bags and went to Smith Park to get rid of them, where the pair were spotted by Mary Smith. First, Khan got rid of small parts like hands. Then they chose another place in the park where they threw away Farah's torso. Once home, they planned Fatima's trek to school, where she was supposed to deflect suspicion with a story about her family's departure, which she did, as we know. Although Khan claimed to be innocent of his daughter's death, the police noted the following during questioning. First, he used the foulest profanities while talking about his daughter. Second, he constantly tried to justify his heinous crime by invoking religion and Allah. He claimed that before dismembering Farah, he recited prayers to soothe her soul, also prepared her to meet Allah. He washed her body parts. Thirdly, the man did not express any regret, grief, or remorse for what had happened. It was also disgusting that Muhammad was unhappy with her height and size. It seemed that even after her death, poor little Farah continued to annoy and inconvenience him, and it was the large size of the corpse that he justified the need for dismemberment. "Sir, so big, where would I take her? Where would I hide it? Such a long corpse, how would I carry it?" It didn't fit in any of the bags or anything else. How would I hide it? Fatima, too, pleaded not guilty, and from the beginning of the interrogation claimed that it was Muhammad who killed the girl. It was him, she repeated. Although parts of Farah's body were not found completely, the search had come to an end. It was time to lay the unfortunate child to rest. Her biological mother, Shahida Jabin, flew in from Pakistan along with her brother. But there remained a serious problem born of bureaucracy. Technically, even though Farah had died, Muhammad Khan remained her guardian. The people of the city, members of the International Muslim Organization of Toronto who were united by a common grief, and Shahida wanted the girl to be buried in Toronto. Though she didn't live here long, the tragedy that occurred, when the gruesome package finds followed and Farah's identification problems, made her the universal child of the people of the city. Here she was prayed for, and vowed never to be forgotten and to be escorted to her final resting place with dignity. If her remains were taken to Pakistan, no one there would particularly care. Farah's father insisted, on the contrary, that Farah should be consigned to the earth in her homeland. Long negotiations began with the jailed Muhammad Khan, Omar Farouk, head of the International Muslim Organization in Toronto, as well as other members of the organization, and politicians began sending him letters urging him to change his mind. When Khan finally gave in and agreed to a funeral in Toronto, a judge had just terminated his parental rights to Farah. More than 3,000 members of the International Muslim Organization gathered for Farah's funeral, and a collective prayer was held. In a separate room, Shahida Jabin was left alone with her daughter's coffin so she could say goodbye to her. The poor woman was only able to cry and cry. As people moved towards the cemetery, all passers-by joined the procession. That day, the huge metropolis seemed to be frozen in united grief, and everyone mourned and saw Farah Khan off on her last journey together. 5 years later, in 2004, when Farah would have been 10, Muhammad was 40 and Fatima was 49. The court hearings finally began. Special court interpreters were brought in to translate Muhammad and Fatima's testimony into English. Unexpectedly, and with great embarrassment, Khan changes his original story during the hearing. He suddenly admits that he was the one who killed Farah, though not deliberately but recklessly, when he started beating her because she was disobeying and behaving naughty. When he returned from work late in the evening of December 6, 1999, and Farah annoyed him by her behavior, whether by asking him to pay for her school pictures with the class or by sneaking cookies from the kitchen, he became angry and started beating the girl and accidentally killed her in an uncontrollable outburst of rage. Together with Fatima, he decided that since they were new to Canada and did not speak the language well, they would not be able to explain what had happened, and no one would believe them that the murder was manslaughter, so they disposed of the body in the manner we have described. Fatima maintained a version of her own innocence. She claimed that she remained a mute observer, was paralyzed by shock, and sat the entire time on the living room couch while Khan beat and then dismembered the girl. The woman tried to portray herself as a victim of circumstances and a cruel, irascible, dominating husband whom she feared and dared not cross. She said that Khan chased Farah around the apartment and around the coffee table, making nasty comments like, "Run, run, where are you going to get away from me?" and beat her until he hit her temple against the sharp corner of the table, and she lost consciousness. At the same time, Fatima expressed the opinion that since Farah had died, it was Allah's wish. The prosecution provided recordings of conversations between Khan and his cellmate. In them, he constantly berated Farah, telling her how naughty she was and that she should have been disciplined with strictness and beatings. The main, and perhaps the only reason for the man's hatred of his daughter was that she was not his child, as it seemed to him, but had been born of another man, and had brought Muhammad an indelible stain of shame in this way. A good deal of time was also devoted to speculation that he could have gotten insurance for her in Pakistan. In addition, Khan was said to have gone to the butcher's shop and spent long hours watching the carcasses being butchered, as if he had been preparing for the crime for some time. Farah's body, on the other hand, had been cut with confidence and precision. His hand had not wavered and he knew what he was doing. Khan's father, Farah's grandfather, spoke and said that his son worked hard in a bank in Pakistan, was respected in the community and never broke the law. He outlined Muhammad's family situation, His first marriage was a family contract, and he only saw his wife on the day of the wedding itself. The relationship did not work out. They had no feelings for each other and broke up 4 months after the wedding. Although Muhammad did not recognize Farah, born a little later, as his child. After the divorce, the village elders at a meeting decided to give custody of her to him. However, Khan did not want the child, and almost immediately sent Farah to his parents, who raised her. Lamenting, Farah's grandfather said that he had sent her to Canada with Muhammad and Fatima, hoping that his granddaughter would have a better life and a good education. The last time he spoke to her on the phone, unaware of the terrible tragedy that was looming, was the day she died. Fatima's first husband and his sons were also invited to speak, and they revealed that she was a terrible stepmother, indifferent, rude, and mean, and that she constantly beat them with a rolling pin for the slightest offenses. They also found many bruises and marks on Farah's body from beatings with a rolling pin, hairbrush, and flip-flops, which were most likely inflicted on her not only on the day of her death, but also on previous days. Given that Muhammad was at work most of the time, and Fatima was at home with her child, it is likely that she had also beaten Farah. All of the above facts led the jury to find Muhammad guilty of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison without parole for 25 years. The court found Fatima, even though she did not participate in the murder and dismemberment of the child, failed to protect the child from Muhammad's aggression, cleaned the apartment to help destroy evidence, helped dispose of the body, and lied to the girl's school, plus likely beat her, therefore guilty of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to life without parole for 15 years. According to the latest information, she has exercised her parole rights and has been granted day parole, meaning she can participate in society and only has to return to prison for the night. Khan will never get out from behind bars. Shahida Jabin was granted Canadian citizenship and invited to move out of Pakistan. She resides in Toronto. The people of Toronto do not forget Farah as they promised her, and Rolf Preiser still personally celebrates the girl's major birthdays.